Hi everyone, welcome to a slightly different video today. We will talk about Cardano and we will talk about Polkadot, but we don't just do regular technical analysis. We will look at relative valuations. So we've got quite interesting charts here. I hope you're going to enjoy the video. So you're all familiar with this chart. This is just Ethereum in US dollars. What you see over here though are two moving averages that are very interesting. So on the one hand, we've got the 23-day moving average and we've got the 39-day moving average. Now, why are those two moving averages very important? Because historically speaking, they are the best predictor of future price growth in Ethereum. So I've done a backtesting analysis, checked all the moving averages for Ethereum and checked what works best historically speaking. So the result of that analysis is that the 23-day moving average and the 39-day moving average work pretty well. So if you buy and hold Ethereum, you would have gotten on average only 56% per annum, and you would have faced a maximum drawdown from the top to the bottom of around 90%. But if you trade according to the 23-day moving average, so you sell everything whenever the price falls below the moving average and you buy back in whenever the price goes above the moving average, then you would have gotten way more performance and way less risk in terms of the maximum drawdown from top to bottom. And so whenever I look at the price of Ethereum, I always draw those two moving averages as well, the 23 and the 39-day. And so that's what we see over here. So in general, we can say Ethereum is obviously still in a very bullish trend. It does look like it's currently the time to trade altcoins and to get a bit more risky compared to just buying and holding Bitcoin. Now, the two main altcoins we're going to talk about today is Cardano, aka ADA, and Polkadot. And so those are the two most common charts. It's just ADA with respect to the US dollar and it's DOT with respect to the US dollar. And so the main problem right now with Cardano is that it's very close to its prior all-time high when it was pumping in the very early days. And so for any additional gain, we would need a really clear breakout. Now this chart looks pretty innocent, right? We have a trading range for Cardano over quite a while. But what happened over here is pretty significant. So this top to bottom, you don't want to be in the market when this happens. This change here was over 97%, in fact around 98%. So you definitely don't want to face that. And on the other hand, you do want to be invested obviously when it goes up. This was a gain of like 40x, or when we really take the last all-time high around 55 to 60x. So when we're just talking about those kind of swings, buying and holding is pretty nerve-wracking, right? You really want to time the market. And so just think about it. If you were buying around here when nobody was caring about Cardano, right? This is the volume over here that you see in the bottom. Nobody was trading cryptocurrencies. You basically need to be in the market when nobody else is talking about it and you're the only crypto nerd that still trades. And that's when you want to accumulate. Now, when you look at the volume right now, everybody talks about crypto. And just look at the sheer difference. The volume is at a completely different level. So just a word of caution, even though the current market still looks very healthy, the potential downside is more than you can probably imagine. Now, if you look at Polkadot, we had this really nice breakout, right? Polkadot just launched recently. And so the gain that you made if you really invested into this early enough was around a 6x. Now, Polkadot is trading sideways for quite a while the volume is pretty flat. And so if you just compare now Polkadot with Ethereum, Ethereum is having this huge run. Everybody buys into Ethereum, probably because of the ecosystem, NFTs, DeFi, and probably also because of institutional demand. There are ETFs on Ethereum as well. So a lot of money goes into Ethereum right now. Polkadot doesn't have that yet. So I would assume that a lot of the demand of Polkadot is still based on retail buyers. And so you're very likely going to take on more risk buying Polkadot compared to Ethereum, because when you have institutional buyers, they are less likely to trade in and out of the market that frequently. They're more likely to hold onto a position for a longer time. They might buy it just to diversify their current portfolio, to cancel out some of the price risk, to use all that low correlation between the assets. But the retail investors, they think differently, right? They want to buy in order to make the multiple X on their investment. And so if the risk reward doesn't really make sense anymore, they're more quick to sell. And so with Polkadot, obviously, you don't want to go this other direction, right? If you would fall in Polkadot to where it started off, you would see a drop of around 85%. Now let's compare Polkadot with Ethereum. This is how the chart looks like. So what's interesting here is how stable those trends are. So we had this pump in September, but then against Ethereum, Polkadot was bleeding pretty consistently. And then we got a big pump and dump, another pump, which is interestingly enough also in line with the volume movements, right? So we have a big volume increase, then a volume decrease, a big volume increase again. And so those price rises that coincident with volume increases are very often related to not so sustainable price increases. And so what's interesting here is that volume went down while the price of Polkadot did not come down as much. And so you did have people in the second pump that bought it for longer time horizons. They didn't just buy it for the quick gains, but you did have quite a lot of people that just bought it and decided to hold, probably for fundamental reasons. And so when you just look at the current price right now, we are not dirt cheap, but we are also not incredibly expensive compared to Ethereum. So your potential upside in terms of Ethereum valuation is around 85%. 90%. Your potential downside is around 33%. So you do have potentially some gain here. The problem though is, as we saw in the past, that these trends, these momentums are relatively stable. So since we are currently in a downtrend, it's pretty dangerous from my perspective to get into Polkadot now in comparison to Ethereum. So Ethereum looks way more healthy. We do have our price above the moving average. We do have the institutional demand. Polkadot, on the other hand, is in the sidewards channel and thus is losing against Ethereum. And so just be aware of this, right? So if you get into Polkadot now for the long haul, you do have a potential downside. But on the other hand, Polkadot is still very new and very fresh. So I do think there are way more long-term holders currently in Cardano. And the proportion of speculators in Polkadot is probably higher, but that's potentially also a chance, right? Because if Polkadot can become a major player, we probably see a lot of those speculators become long-term holders, and we will also see institutional investors buying in. Now here is Cardano versus Ethereum. This is a chart over 3 years, and I don't see a very strong outperformance of Cardano versus Ethereum yet. The two cryptocurrencies seem to be head-to-head all the time. Sometimes Ethereum is favored, other times Cardano gets hyped, then Ethereum is favored again. But what I do like about this chart is how volume increased over time so significantly. Still, if we look at the potential downside, we got something like a 50% off if we have bad luck. And if we are lucky, we got a doubling. So we are pretty much at a 50-50 over here. And potentially the way I see this is, again, ADA is currently bleeding against Ethereum, so the momentum is on Ethereum's side. And so when we're now exactly in the middle of what we could gain versus what we could lose, I personally see, at least short term, not a reason to be into Cardano versus Ethereum. So probably you haven't seen this chart before. This is how does Cardano perform in relation to Polkadot. And especially if you're into swing trading, as in buying alts, selling alts, getting in and out of different alts, this is probably a chart that's very interesting for you. Because what we see here are pretty stable support and resistance lines. And so just by looking at this chart, we can see that Cardano is pretty risky now in comparison to Polkadot. So just take this all in. Cardano is close to its all-time high. It's not getting anywhere. Ethereum is shooting up. Cardano is losing against Ethereum, but it's still at a 50-50 range in terms of potential gains and potential losses. And if we look at Cardano with respect to Polkadot, we do see that it's in dangerously high valuation. So this is a potential drop in relative valuation of around 55%. So if you're actively trading in and out of altcoins, I would be very careful with Cardano right now. Now you can switch this chart, right? Instead of looking at Cardano with respect to DOT, you can look at DOT with respect to Cardano. And so DOT obviously now looks pretty cheap in comparison. So just consider this. DOT is still pretty young. DOT is consolidating sideways. DOT seems to be cheaper with respect to Ethereum. So the risk reward here looks better. So obviously I can't read the future either. But if I would have to make a decision, I would go with Polkadot. And I would probably target a buying price somewhere around the $35 mark. Maybe if you can get it even below that, that would be even better. And then I would hold it for a few months, hoping that another breakout to the upside happens again and that we get a better valuation with respect to Cardano and obviously Ethereum as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give this a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to subscribe as well. We've also got a small Telegram channel that you can find a link to in the description below.